So as diverse as education systems are in this world, we actually share many commonalities. No matter where you go, you'll have some form of primary school and secondary school, and university on top of that. So even teaching methods we're expected to learn in school are most often similar than different. So the education that we have today is actually built on top of these common things. What we share is not just on local scale, like your own district or country, but it's actually on global scale. And the education that we have in this modern world is actually heavily influenced by two systems. We call it systems of blue and system of red. We have color-coded the countries based on their education systems, with similar colors representing similar common traits. There are still many other education systems in the world other than the blue and the red systems. For example, in Europe, there are more variety of programs. However, each of their influence is not as impactful as blue and the red systems, which are more predominant on the global stage. Blue and the red systems, what are they? And why do they have influence in these part of the globe? Well, let's begin with the story of blue. If you see the countries in blue, many nations have gathered their independence and reformed their country's government only after the World War II. Many have chosen democracy as their new form of government, but they needed a sample model to follow. So they naturally followed the leading country in democracy, United States of America. But the model house not only gave them a map to a new government system, but also the new education system. Even some countries who are not an ally of US, like Japan, China, adopted the US education model into their countries. And many years have passed now, so different countries have altered and built on top of this system in their own ways, but they all still share the common roots. These are the countries in red. And if you take a closer look, you'll notice that these nations have another thing in common. Yes, many of them are members of the British Commonwealth, of free associations of 56 member states, mostly provincial colonial countries of the UK, who have chosen to maintain ties and cooperation in the condition that they acknowledge the British monarch. Through this association, many member countries adopted the British ways of doing things. Because of this agreement, the education systems in these countries are far more similar than each other than those of blue. And they also adapted English either as their national language or mandatory as second language. You should not be surprised when you walk up to any Indians, Singaporeans, Malaysians in this red system to have a fluent conversations with you in English. Then, what exactly are the common things that we share in these systems? So we narrowed them down into three criteria: focus, ladder, and tools. Both the blue and the red systems have developed a similar concept in these criteria. So focus, we're talking about pedagogical emphasis or values they highlight for schools and students. Discussions about centralization or decentralization of education, general knowledge versus specialized skills, all falls into this criteria. Second, we're looking at ladder. So when I'm talking about education ladder, I mean something like this. It shows the outline of your education level, and just like a ladder, it just shows how you climb up from one level to another. Blue systems usually have 6-3-3-4. 6 years of primary, 2 to 3 years of middle school, and 3 to 4 years of high school, and the final 4 years of university. Whereas in the red system, they have 8-2-2, 8 years of primary, 2 years of lower secondary, 2 years of upper secondary, and 3 years of university. So tools, we are looking at the environment and the curriculum, teaching methods, and also transfer system and how they are grading these evaluations. All of these tools sort of come to support their educational values. I will mention each of these while I'm covering the major similarities and also the major difference that separate these two systems from each other. So let's see what they look like. Holistic versus specialization. The discussions on holistic education versus specialization is one of the biggest differentiation between the blue and the red systems. Well, some call it breadth versus depth, but I think those two terms doesn't cover all the aspects. So the blue system places their emphasis on holistic education, an idea that school, especially university, is not only a place for you to learn and improve your specialty skills, but also a place for you to develop as a person in whole. So how did they go about doing this? They developed a common core courses or general courses that you have to take no matter what your major or specialty is. Whether you are in engineering, business, or archaeology, you will share some common courses. If you are a business student and pull out a list of courses that you need to take for your undergraduate programs, compare with one of your buddy who is taking, for example, graphics design, you can see some courses that are exactly the same as yours. Courses such as college writing, algebra, foreign languages, business statistics, philosophy are all part of this common core courses. This is part of the reason why universities in blue systems have 4 years of undergraduate level. During the first 2 years, students will have to take many of these common core courses. They only begin to specialize on their 3rd and 4th year. And this common core curriculum also trickles down even to the high school levels, where in the US and Canada, you will need to take minimum number of common core, like maths, science, English. Only then they can branch out to a little bit more. Whereas in the other parts of the blue systems, everyone will have to take exact same courses throughout the high school. So it doesn't matter if you want to be in engineering or graphic design, everyone must complete same levels of math, science, social studies, language, ethics, PE, and technology. And in the US, they brought this idea of holistic learning to another level. They built big common areas for students in different departments to intermingle with each other, share ideas, create network, make something happen. Many universities also make living on campus mandatory requirement for students to experience different aspects of college life. They create many social events and sports events. Intramural sports between students are competitive and fun, and many of you will proudly be a member of the crowd wearing the sports team mascot. And organized socialization among dormitories, majors, student groups, classes, even professors are quite common throughout your university life. They even have several alumni gatherings and clubhouses for the graduates to continue mingling. So through all of these things, universities sort of carve an identity in you and create a sense of belonging. Sometimes it almost feels like you're buying into a certain membership program. Perhaps that's why so many parents whose children who reach the age of university in this system will tell the wonderful stories about their college life, encourage them to also apply to the same one. And in some cases, or should I say, on average, 30% of the alumni in the US contributed some amount of donation back to their universities and colleges. This number sometimes stretches all the way to 64% in some university in Goodyear, like Princeton. So even for the different countries in the blue, they also emphasize the student life and university-led activities. Though they are not able to afford facilities or events as big as the US, they still host retreats, festivals, internships, networking, all led by the school and its team. And finally, the idea of holistic education affects both universities' admission process. In the US, they give about 30% of the admissions weighing for academic criteria. It will require them to be good in every subject, not just your chosen major. Their all focus is also on something else, like your club and extracurricular activities. You have to demonstrate participation outside of your studies. Certificate awards that proves different aspects of your character, such as leadership and teamwork. Multiple personal essays that describes who you are, and reference letters to wrap up all of this and support your documents. Countries other than US in the blue have 75% of the admission weighing on academic criteria, such as your high school GPA and national exams. It doesn't matter if you're applying for the art major, you need to do well in math, science, language, and other minor subjects. They also put heavier emphasis on national exams to test if they reach the academic standards that university would like to have. But either in the US or other countries in blue, to the admissions team, the knowledge and experience of your chosen expertise does not matter as much as how well-rounded of a student you are. So on the other hand, we have the red system, whose focus is on specialization. There is no general courses for all majors to take. If you are a student in business management, you only take the business management related courses. So naturally, you get to dive deeper into the subjects as you take more courses related to your subjects. Many students from the red system actually find the blue system subject courses to be easier and not as comprehensive. And this also applies at the secondary school level. Typically, secondary school in red systems are divided into two segments, lower secondary and the upper secondary. Lower secondary provides foundational academic courses, similarly math, science, English, and social studies, while the upper secondary already focuses on the specialization, where you have to declare your major and chosen emphasis before you apply for university. The student life built around the red systems, you will only hang out with people in your department. A lot of the times, university would not host events such as social activities, clubs, or festivals, or even sports events. There are student groups who does this, but you have to be actively joining them to be able to participate in it. Most of your life will be centered around residence halls. Think back to Harry Potter movies and how they are divided to Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and they will usually hang around only within their groups. Finally, in the red system's admissions, as you can guess, their criteria is going to be heavily placed on how knowledgeable and experienced and passionate you are in your chosen expertise. We're looking at how well you did on each of the courses that related to your specialization. So if you're applying to be a computer science major in the Red Systems University, you will need to take courses like multimedia, data representation, visual basic code, courses that directly relates to your subject. And in some countries, you even have to take high school exams just for the computer science. In your personal essays, they will see how passionate and knowledgeable you are in your chosen expertise. And sometimes you wonder, how much do they expect a high school student to know and experience to write 3 different essays about one subject? In top universities, they may also inquire if you have any working experience or personally led projects about your subject. This is another area that separates the blue and red system, whether the control of the education should be centralized or decentralized. The countries in blue used to operate on decentralized model for their curriculum, method of teaching, evaluation assessments, learning outcomes, school government, and even incentivizing private schools. So instead of having one monolithic education and school monitoring, they will decentralize the responsibilities, learning to districts, provinces, cities, and schools, even to individual teachers. So there are notably more competitive private schools, both in K-12 and university, inside the blue system, as they used to make it easier for schools to open and operate on privately. Even most of the Ivy Leagues in the US are private universities, and many of the top performing universities in the blue countries are also private. However, they have begun to centralize everything after the Industrial Revolution to meet the general needs, and since the 2002 No Child Left Behind or NCLB legislation, they tried to control all the education curriculars and school standards on national level. It began with K-12, but influences have been slowly gaining on universities as well.
What it was telling states was really set low bar that you call proficiency because you stay out of trouble under the law, you get even more money.
No child will be left behind.
This was also the time when Common Core curriculum and standardized testings began to come into full effect. And other countries in the blue system also formed nationally centralized learning after the independence and slowly took control of education throughout the late 1900s to now. But still, universities in this system are left alone, and they also give freedom to professors to operate classes as they want. The professors especially are given a lot of freedom to operate their classes. They can create their own assessments, their contents, learning, and how they want to evaluate the students and giving grades to the students. Very different from the red system, where red is all focused about the control. They have already started national curriculum long ago, implementing what should be taught at schools, at which standard. Even at universities, professors are subjected to create their courses only if they're approved by the boards or their respected department. So even if your professor in Archaeology 101 teaches the materials and down comes the final exam time, the exams are actually not made by the professor. The exams are actually created by the Department of Archaeology in that university. Sometimes this creates a gap in what they're learning inside the classroom and what's actually being tested. Schools monitoring and inspections are very strict, and it is conducted very regularly. So we did mention a little about who managed the assessments in blue and red system. Now I want to talk about how it is being measured. Firstly, there's language differences. Blue system tend to call it grades, while the rest call it marks. But it goes beyond this usage of language. Bear with me. Grades are usually considered in blue. If you're taking Archaeology 101 class this semester, your grades will be measured only by the Archaeology 101 standard set by your professor, not from the departments or other proctors. Now on the red side, marks are given to you based on your course performance, yes, but it is also measured by a standard, not only of the particular course, but the standard of the archaeology department. So the department, which involves people who never taught your Archaeology 101 class, will see your work and compare it to the standard work produced by the department, which includes hundreds of PhD level papers and written work, and will give you a generous mark of 70% if you did well out of 100. Because as an undergrad student, you did well, but not enough to impress the whole department. This is why it is extremely difficult to score high marks in the rest system. And if you're in the rest systems and see how blue system professors are grading, you might think that they're handing out candies. Also, the blue system do have a candy system called GPA, or grade point average, where they measure how you scored in all of your courses on average. So even if you did not do well in Archaeology 101 class, you can still make it up. by doing well in your French class. Both systems do measure from 0 to 100 for most courses and programs, but grading standard is drastically different. There are several renowned agencies who compare the grading scale between different education systems. You can link the description down below. Another difference falls to the type of assessment that each systems use. For Blue system, they have much more multiple choice questions and questions with exact answers and very few subjective questions. Whereas the Red systems, they will use mostly subjective questions like essays and research papers. So while it does depend on individuals to which type of assessments they prefer, there is tendency to score lower marks on the subjective questions. Overall, it is more difficult to achieve higher marks and grades in the Red systems. Some would even say it is impossible to reach certain marks above 80 due to how strict the standard is on each of the courses, but also on the type of assessments they will have. Now, transfer systems. Transfers are usually done by credits. Credits are measured based on the workload and contact hours that you have in your courses. But it is awarded differently by universities. Most universities in the Blue will award 2 to 4 credits per course, while universities in Red awards around 10 to 20. Now, the difference number are more due to how it is measured, and we have a third-party agency that could calculate the credit equivalency between different education systems. What is more important when it comes to transfer is which courses are actually allowed to transfer. That depends on the universities and the system. First of all, you have to understand there are 3 types of courses. There are Common Core, Subject Core, and Specialization. Common Core, as I mentioned, includes college writing, math, courses that every major needs to take. Subject Cores are general courses that students studying in that department that needs to take. For example, if you are an accountant student, you will need to take some business courses because you're part of the business department, like Business Statistics, Finance 101. And finally, there is Specialization, where courses is concentrated towards your program, like Financial Accounting, Principles of Finance. So transfer within the Blue system universities are a little bit easier. They will allow transfers between Common Core and certain Subject Core courses. You will notice many transferring happening for students after their first or second year of undergraduate study in the Blue system. In fact, no universities in both Red and Blue will accept courses from Specialization. Every university wants you to take their Specialized course as a standard, and requirements are very different, which is why transfer in Red systems are much more difficult since most of the courses are already specialized. So there are some education platforms that actually operate courses that meets the subject core standards required by universities in the Red systems in order for the smoother transfer. So how about the transferring between the 2 systems? Red will say that they will not accept Common Core courses since there is no Common Core, and subject course may be accepted by some universities but very limited. Blue University will say that they prefer students to take their own specialization courses. The difference in how credits are measured and evaluated, as well as difference in curriculum standards on each course, makes the transfer very difficult. You can still apply for a transfer by having it evaluated through agency, but answers are not always favorable. These days, many universities actually create MOU, academic partnership, with each other for the credit transfers. So while general transfer between 2 systems may be difficult, you can still see various credit transfer partnerships that each university created to see what is available. So there is no perfect education system. Each has its own merits and demerits. While Blue systems implemented the idea of holistic education, many still questions the effectiveness of these Common Core subjects and how it contributes to learning and growing. The same goes for Red systems, where specialization is emphasized, but it's the pursuit of single subject at a very deep academic level, really necessary for most people. Between the 2 education systems, I wanted to point out this. There's a common factor we should be aware of. It's that we rush into asking our young adults to make decisions for university choices and expertise a little too hastily. Red system does give you pressure earlier on as 14 to 16 years old. Blue does give you more time until you reach 2nd or 3rd year of university, but they still ask you to sign up for their university membership straight out of high school. Also, the current state of most education systems are at concerning level, where no matter what style or focus of their education systems are, many have lost the spirit of education. So you're not limited to these systems that you're born into. You can always find that the education spirit lives on many places other than universities and schools. And I hope that whatever that we shared on this video will be helpful to the people who loves the education and what it can do to a person as much as me.